I used to think a quiet house meant we were doing fine, that if the calendar stayed packed and the flights stayed on time, then love would wait politely in the corner. But the day I heard my daughter whisper "Dad" from behind a locked door, the kind of whisper you feel more than hear, everything I believed about success and control cracked like cheap glass under a heel. And yeah, that happened. And if you've ever ignored a feeling because the emails were louder, you know what I mean. That morning at Greywater Cove, the fog sat over the water like someone had pulled a gray blanket to the chin of the bay. Stonehaven had that salt on the windows smell Vanessa had laid out, a picture-perfect breakfast, and smiled the way people smile when they're auditioning for a part they already decided is theirs. Ellie came down in her oversized sweatshirt, with her hair tucked behind one ear. Small for 10, but holding herself like someone who knows. If she makes less noise, there will be less trouble. And when Vanessa glanced at the blue cornflowers on the table and said, "We should toss those they shed. The house will smell fresher." Ellie stiffened and said, "Those were Mom's favorite." And I should have put my briefcase down right there, but Zurich was calling. And I kissed the air and said, "I'll call tonight." Then watched the fog take my taillights like it does, and told myself the grown-ups had it covered. I didn't hear the heel grind on the photograph, that crisp winter branch sound, didn't hear Ellie say, "Please don't," didn't hear the storage room lock bite shut. I was in a conference room signing a custody permission. My assistant slid over because Vanessa had asked to formalize household decisions while I traveled, and a little alarm in my chest pinged, but I swiped it away like a calendar alert. Then I stared at Lake Zurich and remembered how on our video calls Ellie always looked a few inches to the right of me like I was a picture on a wall and not a person, so I called home and it rang and rang and rang again. And when the minister of something cleared his throat and said 5 minutes, I heard my own voice say, "Push it," and it sounded like a stranger who had finally chosen a side. Stonehaven at dawn is haunted in the good way sea wind through the pines, that old clock ticking out its opinion. And I came through the door and saw a half glass of red wine with a lipstick ghost on the rim, a thin smear on the stone glitter of glass in the grout. And when I said, "Ellie," the house sent it back to me empty. But then a small voice threaded through the hallway, Dad, threadbare and honest, and I followed it to the storage closet with a new padlock Vanessa had bought to keep paint thinner away from children, which is a nice sentence for people who don't know what fear smells like. And I yanked that lock once, twice, 3 times. The 4th did it, and the door breathed out cold air, and there was my kid on the floor, knees to chest, holding a torn corner of a photo like a flag, tiny cuts on her palms, her wrist red from trying. And when she said she locked me in, "Dad," there's a sound a man makes. He doesn't make twice in a lifetime. It's not loud. It's a vow torn out by its roots. Vanessa was leaning at the end of the hall with that cat who knocked the vase smirk, talking about structure and self-control, and how I always misunderstood her love, and the oddest calm rolled through me like the kind you get right before you step into cold surf. I told her to leave Stonehaven tonight. She laughed. The brittle laugh that tries to break you first, gathered her coat, threw a look over her shoulder that said, "You'll crawl back." And for a few hours, I believed the worst was behind us. Then the gate turned into a stage vans with telescoping masts, microphones perched like metal birds, and the edited video Vanessa posted bloomed across 1,000,000 screens, her crying at the iron bars. Words like "locked" and "frightened" and "please someone help." Then the clip of me closing the gate with Ellie's silhouette behind me cut like a knife ripped from its beginning and its after context. Amputated. Until truth limped and the questions fired without question marks. "Is your daughter safe, Mr. Mercer? Did you restrain a minor? Why did your wife run?" And I could feel Ellie at the upstairs landing freeze when a lens tilted her way, so I stepped into the frame, shut the curtains, and my hand shook like I was holding an engine block, not fabric. I called my lawyer and said, "File," he said. "Are you sure?" I said, "I am now." And somewhere across town, Vanessa hit upload again. I didn't give a statement. I didn't go live. I did something very small and very stubborn. I gathered the pieces of Nora's photo from the utility closet floor, Scotch tape, and school glue on my fingers, and I rebuilt her smile at the dining table like a person patches a roof in the rain, not pretty, not perfect, but shelter. I left the cracks visible and hung it over the mantel with a little nail and a shaky hammer. And when I stepped down, Ellie was behind me, barefoot. Hair, messy face, open in the way kids have when they're trying to decide if a moment is safe. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. We made pancakes the next morning. And I burned the first batch so bad, the smoke alarm chirped, and Ellie laughed into her juice glass and covered her mouth like laughing was a thing she had to ask permission for. And then because I knew cameras were watching through the ironwork anyway, we went outside with a flat of cornflowers from the nursery and planted along the walks, hands in cold soil water sloshing over our shoes, me showing Ellie how to cup the dirt and tuck the roots, her showing me how to be patient. And I thought, if the world wants a show, let them watch a father show up. The twist, the part where some people will say the universe finally did its job, came from a lab coat, and a neighbor with a decent memory. The forensic editors flagged Vanessa's upload for jump cuts and tampered timestamps. The metadata sang its ugly song, a second take here, a missing chunk there. The neighbor handed over the hour when shouting rattled the hedges, and when he found a padlock on our porch table that didn't belong to the shed by night. The vans thinned by week's end, the gate was a gate again, and the local feed ran a low banner that said the video was deliberately edited, and I was cleared of wrongdoing, which is a tidy phrase until you realize how wrung out a family is by the time that sentence arrives. Vanessa came back once more, stormcoat, clean face, a folder full of the kind of paperwork people collect when they think signatures are the same thing as love. She wanted fairness, her word, which sounded like leverage to my ears. When I didn't buzz her in, she smiled a tired, mean smile and said, "You think you're protecting her? Grant, you're building a prettier prison, and you'll be the one locked inside." She lifted her phone and recorded another little monologue for strangers, and Ellie's hand found the back belt loop of my jeans and tugged like when she was 5, and I was the giant who could carry her upstairs. I didn't answer Vanessa. I closed the gate, and it made that iron-on-iron sound. You don't forget, period, next line, new paragraph, inside your life. The rest is recovery, and it does not make good television, which is the best part, sleeping in a chair by my daughter's door for a couple nights, because her breathing made my breathing behave learning. Her sketchbook has a white pencil that puts a soft shine on a glass of water. If you tilt the paper toward the lamp framing the sketch, she left me asleep in the lawn chair, with dirt on my hands, and a row of crooked blue blooms. She titled it, Today, and I hung it next to Nora's repaired photo, 2 imperfect witnesses, agreeing for once, making breakfast, without setting off alarms, telling her about the Cedar Bridge picnic, where her mom tied corn ribbons to the railing, and declared the lidless coffee a fancy party, driving to the cliff on Sunday with 2 mugs and a thermos, and the new frame sitting on the bench with the brass plaque that says "Take a breath," and watching the light ride the water like a promise. Ellie set the picture between us and said, "I think she'd like this," and I said she'd like you more. And somewhere in the space between those lines, I understood that presence is louder than defense, and time spent is sharper than any press release. If you're wondering about justice, the paperwork moved. The lawyers did what lawyers do, and yes, part of me still wants a louder verdict for the quiet kind of harm that never leaves bruises where a camera can see them. But the true turn for me was not the lock breaking or the headline clearing my name. It was glue on my fingers, and a little nail on a wall, and a kid who stopped looking slightly past me and started saying us instead of me. When she talked about eggs, you can call that small if you want. But I'm telling you, that's the part that saved us. So let's argue, because stories change us more when we argue should Vanessa face charges for what she did behind the gate and what she did online, or do you see a woman drowning in resentment and pulling everyone under just to keep her head up? Did the media do its job by amplifying a cry at a gate? Or did it fail a child who never asked to be famous for a week? And the one that might sting me a little. Do you think a man like me deserves any credit for finally doing what he should have done all along? Drop your take below your own stories. The quiet rooms you checked on the locked doors you opened or should have, because I'll be reading. And if there's a kid in your life who went quiet recently, maybe make pancakes badly tomorrow, plant something ugly and resilient, water it slow, let them see you choose.